third edition of They Don't Teach Corporate in College, a 20-something's Guide to the Business Reader Questions. Today we're going to answer a couple of interesting ones from our fabulous They Don't Teach Corporate in College readers. Number one is about productivity and organization. The question is, in Chapter 5 you talk about organization and the purposeful workday. Yes, indeed. You gave some advice on managing your inbox and projects. Have you ever tried some of the blog-worthy productivity methods, such as David Allen's Getting Things Done and Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week? And would you recommend these to us? Answering your question, yes indeed, I would recommend these two methods. I'm familiar with both of them. Tim's is a little misleading. If you go purely by the title, the 4-Hour Work Week, you might get the wrong impression. Tim's not advocating really that you only work 4 hours a week. What he's essentially saying is that you try to get rid of as many busy work tasks as you can to focus on the critically important tasks that are really necessary to get your job done. So eliminate the trivial many to focus on the critical few. In terms of David Allen, he advocates another technique that I highly recommend, which is taking a large, unmanageable task and breaking it down into small chunks. I think this is great because it helps you become more motivated because you can see the end in sight when the task at hand is very small. Whereas when it's large and unwieldy, you might think that it's so big that you can't even motivate yourself to get started. So I think both of these techniques are very, very effective, and I highly recommend picking up both books. Second question, you talk about the prudence of learning a foreign language in this economy. What are the most marketable languages these days? Have you learned any yourself, and what are some resources that you might suggest to us? Good question. I am very ashamed to say that I only speak English. I know a little bit of French and a little bit of Spanish too, but really I'm not fluent in either of those, and if there's one thing I could wish for my skill set, it would be to be bilingual. So if you're already bilingual or even trilingual or you know multiple languages, good for you. If you're not though, I highly recommend picking up either Spanish or Chinese. Those seem to be the languages I'm hearing more and more are the most marketable. And if you don't know one, but you want to pick it up, you might try traveling abroad. I've heard immersing yourself in a language is the best way to become familiar with it. Or try taking a training course. Maybe your company offers them for free. If you want to stick close to home and buy your computer, you could try a program such as Rosetta Stone. I've heard really great things about that one. Next question. I really like that you mentioned emotional intelligence as sort of a foil to IQ. So EQ versus IQ. Where can we learn more about this? And are there methods for measuring the EQ? This is a great question, and I wish I had the specific answer regarding measurement. I don't think there's yet a way to measure EQ, although I could be wrong. There's a psychological test for everything. But if you are unable to find one, as I've been unable to find one, you might try Andre Weisiger's book, Emotional Intelligence at Work. That was where I learned the concept myself and actually learned practical ways to employ it, which I think is really the important thing, guys. Not that really you know what your EQ is, but you know what to do with it. And I suggest getting to know your EQ by sitting down and thinking about the types of situations that may get you upset or excited at work. And then start to think, how can I react to various situations when I start feeling these particular emotions? And in that way you can keep emotions from creeping up on you and perhaps causing a reaction that wouldn't be very good for your career. So I highly recommend just taking a little bit of time and thinking about yourself. It's really just self-awareness. That's all it is. But for more information, check out Dr. Andre Weisiger's book. Last question for today is that finally you highlight entrepreneurship as one of the topics treated in the second edition of They Don't Teach Corporate in College. Yes, that's true. How have entrepreneurial opportunities for 20-somethings changed in recent years, and what sort of challenges do entrepreneurial 20-somethings face in this decade? Great question, and I think that in fact there are a lot more opportunities for entrepreneurial 20-somethings. The area where I've seen the biggest change is social media. Before, you had to be someone with a lot of business experience to start a business, but ever since the dot-com boom in the early time of this decade, we have seen 20-somethings all over the place forming their own companies. So I think that social media and other types of information technology companies are really leading the way in terms of having effective and dynamic 20-something leaders. In terms of the challenges though, the biggest challenge I think entrepreneurial 20-somethings face is going out and starting their own business before they're ready. You have to recognize that when you're 21 or 22, you don't have the skill set to be able to have your own business. So I recommend trying out a whole bunch of things and making mistakes on someone else's dollar before you take all the risks with your own business. So go out and work for somebody for a couple of years and learn the ropes so that when it's time to form your own business, you'll really be ready. Thanks for joining me on this third edition of They Don't Teach Corporate in College, a 20-something's Guide to the Business World, Answers to Reader Questions. See you next time.